So we're having a conversation about dry January and its benefits. Joining me now, Dr. Payal Kohli, a cardiologist out of Denver. Thank you for joining us today. This is an interesting conversation that you have been having with people across the nation. They are saying they're continuing the dry January trend into February now, and they're experiencing a lot of surprising benefits they just are going to stick with. Tell us, what happens to the body when you stop drinking alcohol?
You know, it's incredible. Just 1 month of abstaining from alcohol, or even actually cutting down how much alcohol you're drinking, can translate into immediate health benefits. So, on average, people lose about 4.5 pounds when they abstain from alcohol for a month. And that's because there's a lot of calories in those drinks that we're drinking. But beyond just that, we see an immediate drop occurring in your blood pressure because alcohol can be very stimulating to the blood vessels, cause them to spasm down. We see changes in markers of insulin resistance. So that means your body responds to insulin differently, and you have less glucose intolerance, less risk for diabetes. And interestingly enough, we see changes in chemicals that can lead to cancer. So some of the growth chemicals that can lead to growth of cancers go down as soon as you start abstaining from alcohol. So the physiologic benefits are incredible, and they're immediate.
I heard you talking to folks in Denver as well, and they were saying they felt more regulation of their emotions. And then you had talked about control, a difference in having a control over your body and, your energy levels and the way you respond to stress.
Yeah, so it's not just the physiologic changes that we're seeing. We're seeing psychologic changes, we're seeing behavioral changes, and we're seeing mood changes as well. So, almost immediately you're sleeping better when you're not drinking alcohol. So that could in and of itself be a mechanism by which your mood is boosted. But also your brain rewires because you really get that control back. You sort of start to recognize what your triggers are. You start to be able to control them. So, dry January or dry February, whenever you decide to start it, it's not just about being sober that month, but it's actually about regaining control over kind of, unintentional or inadvertent triggers in your life. And it continues throughout the rest of the year. So people not only are less likely to drink alcohol later in the year, if they do a dry January, dry February month, but they're also more likely to have control over other aspects of their life, get less triggered emotionally by other sorts of things.
And we can all benefit from feeling more stable mentally, emotionally. And then I heard you talk about it can create early onset symptoms of dementia as well. And that just blew my mind.
Yeah, so alcohol is not just a carcinogen, meaning it causes cancer. It's not just something that causes heart disease, but it actually, gets into our brain. That's part of the way that we get that buzz that we all talk about, but it's actually toxic to our brain cells. So over time, even what we think of as moderate alcohol consumption can actually translate into behavioral issues, executive function issues, memory issues, and then as we get older, can actually be associated with an increased risk of dementia as well. So Canada, I don't know if you heard this, but just a few weeks ago changed their sort of recommended weekly limit down to less than 2 drinks a week. It used to be, 10 to 14 drinks a week. And here in the United States, we say, oh, it's okay for a woman to drink 1 drink a day and a man to drink 2 drinks a day, so 7 to 14 a week. But this body of literature is really making us wake up and say, is it time to revise those guidelines where what we thought was moderate drinking is actually high levels of drinking. We should really only be drinking less than 2 drinks a week.
Fascinating, really critical research. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us today. With that, we'll be right back.